The NDP leadership race is heating up. BC Union leader Rob Ashton is the third candidate looking to lead the party, joining NDP MP Heather McPherson and former journalist and political activist Avi Lewis. The three candidates are vying to replace former NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who stepped down after the party faced its worst election loss this past spring. For a closer look at how to rebuild this party, I'm joined in studio this morning by NDP leadership candidate Heather McPherson. Great to have you here in studio. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
You keep saying that the NDP needs to build a bigger table, but at my house, doesn't matter how big the table is, if people don't like what you're serving, they're not going to come. So what are you putting on this big table that will bring people back?
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I was growing up in Edmonton, my dad was a truck driver and my mom stayed home with us, and we did have this big chaotic family. And so, like, the story I told at my launch is this idea that we would have so many people come over for Christmas dinner, so many people come over for Thanksgiving, and that we would actually take the doors off the hinges and build these other doors because you needed to have enough seats.
Yeah.
And for me, that's my vision for the party, is how do we make sure that folks that share our values, people that you know, want to take care of their neighbors, want to take care of each other, believe in justice, believe in fairness, that those people see themselves at the New Democratic table. And they didn't in April, right? Like that wasn't a good election for us.
Yeah.
And I think we stopped talking to people where they are. You know, I think New Democrats, we've got the values that so many Canadians share, but you don't
have their votes.
No, and we've been talking to people. We've been talking to ourselves. And what we need to do is go to where people are. We need to talk to people about the issues that are most important to them. That doesn't mean we change our values. The values stay the same, but who we talk to and how we talk to them, that needs to change.
I think it's a good time to remind people, or what are the values of the NDP? There's been a lot of internal discussion about who are we now as a party, where do, you know, and this return to our roots, but what does that actually mean? So if you win, you're going to be leading a party that right now really can't seem to agree on or articulate what it is. So who is an NDP voter? Like, who is this party now? And
you know, I think it's not necessarily that we can't agree, it's that that's what a leadership debate is, right? Like, that's what we're doing right now, is we're talking about the future of the NDP. We're talking about what we want the direction to be. That's what a leadership race is. That's why it's exciting.
Yeah.
You know, people bring in their vision of what we want to build, and then the membership across the country gets to decide which of those visions sort of resonates with them. But for me, like, one of the things that's so important is that we know that we have to talk to people where they're at. And right
what does that mean? Talk to people where they're at?
Canadians are so worried about their jobs. They're worried about whether or not young people in their lives are going to be able to find a job. Like, I think if Alberta, you know, Alberta youth unemployment is through the roof. I have a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old. I'm worried about them being able to find jobs. People are worried about how much groceries cost, you know? Again, back to that 17-year-old.
Yeah.
I know exactly how much young teenage boys can eat.
Yeah.
And just like rent, housing, those are issues where people are concerned. And so you talk to people where they are. You go to where they are. And for me, I think the next steps for the NDP involve a lot of church basements, a lot of union halls, a lot of kitchen tables, conversations with people about how we rebuild our party, what it looks like to actually be a New Democratic Party from coast to coast to coast.
Right, but those voters in the church basements and the unions, they went to the Liberals and the Conservatives in this last election. Is it possible they found homes there?
I don't think so, especially not watching Mark Carney take a pretty wide swing to the right. So, you know, we've got a very, very conservative, very right-wing conservative party right now. And then we've also got a prime minister who promised a lot of progressive things and then immediately sort of swung to the right with some of the policies that he's brought forward. So there's a real space for progressive Canadians, for Canadians who believe in taking care of your neighbor, you know, believe that the government has a role in helping folks as we're facing huge challenges from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, the potential recession that's coming. You know, workers in Southern Ontario are very worried. So I honestly don't believe that those folks that lent their vote to the Liberals or the Conservatives in the last election because they were either very, very afraid of Donald Trump or very, very afraid of Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
I don't think that those folks are not going to come back. They are New Democrats. They are going to come back, but we have to talk to them about the issues that matter to them. Can
you clarify something for me? You keep mentioning a purity test. You talked about this in your campaign launch. What does that mean? So basically, I think it means we need, that's what I mean when I say we have to build a bigger table. You know, that's what I mean. It's this idea that not everybody has the words. Not everybody has every single
can say it the way that, you know, that a lot of our folks, a lot of our activist folks in particular can say it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they don't have the same values.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they should be excluded. It means you bring them on board and then you move them along that, that continuum. You know, you don't want to tell people they don't belong at our table. If they share those values,
yeah,
they all belong. If anyone who shares the values of looking after each other and taking care of each other, and that does not mean that we abandon our human rights work that we do. You know, New Democrats have been the only party that regularly stands up for human rights for people around the world. It doesn't mean that we don't protect the most vulnerable people in our community. You know, in Alberta, trans kids are being attacked, and that is something I will never stop fighting for. But it does mean that Canadians across the country are worried about cost of living issues, and that's where we talk to them. That's where we meet them.
Heather, are you concerned that that table could get too big? It's a different metaphor, but I remember Ronna Ambrose talking about when she was the interim leader for the Conservatives, getting a big tent. But what happens when things get too big is the people at this end of the table and the people at this end of the table aren't going to be able to hear each other.
Yeah.
So how are you going to create a party that is focused but big at the same time?
And I think that's where we come back to the values. You know, that's where you come back to the values that make us New Democrats. We're not going to agree on every single thing. Absolutely. It's a giant country. There are going to be disagreements, but the 99% of the time that we do agree, we've got to work together. And the reason we have to do that is so important. When you elect more New Democrats, you get things that help Canadians. You get things like the dental care program. You get things like the pharmacare program, anti-scab legislation, you know, workers' protections, all of those things. And I sit in the House of Commons right now and I think there's nobody fighting for those issues. There's nobody that's looking out for working class Canadians right now, because we are only 7, because we are so small. So we need to do this work because we need more New Democrats, because more New Democrats means better things for Canadians.
You are the group of 7 right now in the House of Commons.
It's a magnificent 7.
Heather McPherson, it was great to meet you. Thanks for coming in studio today.
Thanks for having me.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.